Hey everyone, Casey here, and today we're going to look at how to use AI to solve any problem. This is one of the best use cases I've come across for tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude. We're going to be using Ray Dalio's problem-solving framework, and if you're unfamiliar with Ray Dalio, he is a self-made gajillionaire and the author of one of my favorite books of all time, this book here called Principles. And in this book, he outlines his 5-step process for getting anything you want out of life. I've used this process successfully while running my agency and in many other areas, and I've recently had an aha moment of using large language models to help me walk through that 5-step process. So we're going to start with just looking at what that process is. Then we're going to get into some basic prompts you can use for that. And finally, we're going to look at how to create custom GPTs or custom assistants that can help you through each one of these steps, because some of them are a little more complex and require more than just one simple prompt. And if you'd like to follow along with this video, I've got a cheat sheet version of this available to my Patreon supporters. I've got a link to that in the description. It includes all the prompts, all of the different instructions for the ChatGPT models that we're going to be going through, and it's got some more resources there that we're not going to get into in this video. So if you're getting something out of this video or my other videos, please consider checking out my Patreon options. I've got some coaching programs in there as well. Here is Ray Dalio's 5-step process, and I wanted to show this graphic that he includes in the book to show how cyclical this is. It starts with getting clear goals. Then you inevitably encounter problems. You diagnose those problems. You design a plan, and then you push through to completion. And it is cyclical because then you're just on to the next goal. One of the genius aspects of this is that he really stresses you want to compartmentalize each one of these steps and focus on goal clarity alone before you move into problem solving, before you move into diagnosing the problem, designing your plan, and doing. And I think this is a big issue that I stumbled with all the time when I would just kind of have a rough idea of what I wanted to get done. I'd inevitably hit some sort of a roadblock, and I'd immediately kind of jump right to figuring out what to do, and I wouldn't do a great job of pushing through to completion. So by thinking of these step by step and really focusing on each step in isolation, there's a lot that can be gained. And I think you can think of that in terms of these large language models as well. Oftentimes when you just give them one prompt, help me solve a certain problem, they go straight through and try to do all of these steps in one response. And that is really problematic. And in that way, we can guide these large language models to being a lot more effective in reaching our goals if we are able to break out these steps. So here's what we're going to go through today. We're going to use prompts and custom GPTs to get crystal clear on our goals. We want to define what success really means for us. We want to be audacious, but also grounded in realistic possibilities. Also, when it comes to those goals, it's important not to confuse them with desires. So focusing on a goal that can actively be achieved. Then moving into identifying problems. Ray Dalio says identify and don't tolerate problems. So these are inevitable obstacles that are going to be preventing us from reaching our goals, and we want to actively seek problems out rather than letting them fester. So in this phase, we're going to focus on a proactive problem hunting mindset to figure out what our problems might be, possibly before we even run into them. Then in the third step here, we're going to diagnose these problems and get to their root causes. So oftentimes when we run into a problem, there is a lot of different things that need to be untangled when we're figuring out how to solve that problem. So again, we want to, most importantly, don't jump immediately to solutions, but dig deep and understand what the true causes of these problems might be and get to the fundamental why behind the issue. And then the all-important designing a plan. So creating a well-thought-out design that addresses the root causes of the problems, mapping out steps from start to finish to get around these obstacles, brainstorming different paths around these obstacles, and thinking of contingencies and how we can address those. Finally, pushing through to completion. This is very important and something I personally struggle with, executing the plan with determination. And in this step, we're going to turn the large language model into an accountability coach to help us push through to completion. So like I mentioned earlier, we're going to start with some basic prompts for each of these and then dig a little deeper into how we can create custom GPTs for each one of these steps, because some of them, especially the root cause analysis and designing the plan, require more than just one or two prompts to be effective. I believe strongly that building this skill of learning how to build these custom GPTs is one of the most important skills you can be developing right now, and I want to share with you my process for doing that. But first, let's jump here into the cheat sheet and grab some of the prompts that I've come up with. You can see I've got everything outlined here in the cheat sheet. I love having these handy. My clients love having them handy for quick reference so they don't have to watch a video over and over again, and they can just copy and paste things right out of these into the large language models, as we're going to be doing right here. So this first one, my rough goal is X. Help me refine that goal with strong emphasis on whether it's truly achievable, and here's the framework we're going to use. So this prompt packs a lot in there. There's more to it. I'll just leave it there. It gets into the why. How does this goal fit into my broader vision or values, making sure we're focusing on the right goal anyway, and then getting into the what. So this is the SMART framework for getting clarity on your goals. I think most people are going to be familiar with that: specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time-bound. There's a lot on this. You can do some searches and dive into that more, but I think the biggest thing here that I've always struggled with in the SMART framework is achievable. Is this goal actually achievable? Because we want to push ourselves, but as Ray Dalio says, we want to be grounded in realistic possibilities. One of my other favorite Ray Dalio quotes is embrace reality and deal with it. So he encourages us to be audacious in our goals, but also embrace reality and try to be as grounded in reality as possible. So here we go. We're going to drop this in. I'm going to start with Gemini. I really have been using Gemini quite a lot. I feel like Gemini is the strongest large language model overall. So I've copied and pasted that prompt, and I have added in here, my rough goal is to create a great website for my new consulting business in the next 2 weeks, because I have some speaking engagements coming up and I don't have a website yet. So let's see what we can get done here. So it has asked me some clarifying questions here. What is the outcome I'm aiming for? What are my values? And then looking into the what. So getting these specific, measurable, achievable, and relevant time-bound goals. It then gets further into refining this into option 1, focusing on a minimum viable product. MVP is something I'm sure a lot of people watching this is familiar with. So within 2 weeks, it might be a lot to launch a, very robust, extensive website, but we can get a basic one up. Extending the timeline is another option, and it's starting to get into some of the obstacles and planning, which we don't really want it to do. This is why I think the custom GPTs are going to perform better, because we want to focus on each stage in particular and not jump right into the obstacles and planning quite yet. So I've answered some of the questions here and really nudged it to help me create a clear goal statement. No need to start planning quite yet. And here's a pretty clear goal statement that can help us move on to the next step. Back in the cheat sheet, getting to step 2, developing a problem hunting mindset. And I think this is genius, where Ray Dalio proactively looks for potential problems that you might encounter. And that can be one major step to avoiding them in the long run. He also emphasizes ways of looking at things that may not be a problem, but can always be better and be improved upon. And this is something that I struggle with quite a lot, where if something's just working okay, I tend to just ignore it and let it be. But I know there are people out there who are really good at pushing themselves to improve things even when they're just okay. So here's the prompt for this problem identification stage. Below is my goal statement. My task is to uncover potential problems that will prevent me from reaching the goal. And this is clarity, blind spots, external factors, internal conflicts, and prioritization. I think that's probably the biggest one here, is that if I had, every hour free in the next 2 weeks, creating this website wouldn't be that hard. But that is far from the case, as this is something that I'm adding to an already busy workload. So I've copied and pasted that prompt right in here to Gemini, and I have copied and pasted this goal statement in here as well. Since I'm still in that same chat, I don't necessarily have to copy that goal statement in there, but for clarity's sake, can't hurt. And now Gemini has given us some great ideas on getting even deeper clarity here, defining exactly what visually appealing means, what qualified leads mean, and blind spots. This is a huge part of Ray Dalio's process. Everybody has these blind spots, and identifying them is basically a superpower. And this is right on the money, because since I have design experience, I have underestimated the time it takes. It's always easier in my mind than when I get to working on it. The curse of knowledge, right on the money. Competition, changing web standards, internal conflicts, perfectionism, absolutely had to let that go. And prioritization is a big thing here, as I mentioned, as well as scope creep, additional considerations, post-launch, and analytics, huge. There are a couple more prompts in the problem identification phase here that you might want to take note of. The sneaky problem prompt. This prompt has worked well for me, uncovering sneaky problems that might not be apparent right off the bat. So really digging into figuring out what might prevent you from reaching that goal. And then even this problem hunting mindset, like I mentioned, nudging myself, nudging the large language model to help me think about continuous improvement. But for now, we're going to jump into root cause analysis, which is often shortened to RCA, which I had not heard of before, but that kept coming up. So if you see RCA in here, that is root cause analysis. And this is really important because the problems that we encounter are often just surface level and pointing at bigger issues. This will help us get to the root of the problem before we design a plan. And I'm going to drop this into the same chat string, and I have just added in here my problem statement is that I'm having a hard time completing my website due to other priorities. And this is helping me get a lot of clarity on why I'm struggling to complete this website. Other priorities is very vague, so it asks what are those priorities. Having a hard time isn't quantifiable, and it jumps right to some pretty helpful stuff. So a much better problem statement is I frequently struggle to dedicate consistent time towards completing my website due to other work and personal priorities. Then it gets into the whys, because I get pulled away over urgent client requests, family obligations, etc., immediate deadlines. So this is all feeling very accurate even without me answering those questions. And it even offers some other root cause analysis, this fishbone diagram, and this other way of doing root cause analysis. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that because it will be wrong. And this is all right on the money. So now that we have the root causes, it's time to design a plan here. And Ray Dalio goes through a lot on this, reflection and visualization, so kind of looking backward before you look forward, having a machine mindset, so looking down at your situation as if it's a machine with inputs, processes, and outputs. That can be very helpful. Exploring other possibilities, so there's a lot of different ways to solve problems. It's important that you don't get stuck grinding your wheels in one way when there may be an easier way, such as if I were to just really delegate this project to some folks on my team who I know could knock it out. It's becoming apparent to me as I'm making this video right now. This is my favorite though, the movie script approach. So thinking of your plan of attack as a movie script and really visualizing what needs to happen first, second, third, who are the characters, how do the subplots unfold. And for me, that is much more helpful than like a Gantt chart, or for sure than an outline, because there's so many different things that need to happen in tandem oftentimes when we're making a project plan. This movie script, for whatever reason, has really resonated with me, and I've got that baked into the custom GPTs and some of the prompts we're going to get to in a second. So here we're going to start with just the solution brainstorming prompt. My goal is X, my current problem is X, and this is impeding my process. The root causes are these. And since we're just going to be putting this in the same chat string, we don't need to copy and paste all of that. We can edit this down quite a bit. Let me show you what I'm going to do here with this prompt. Just going to say, given my goal, problems, and root causes, please help me brainstorm multiple solution paths. So before we're making that detailed plan, we're looking at what are all the different possible ways of solving this problem. Let's see what it comes up with. So this is awesome. The root cause 1, undervaluing the website's impact, tying it back to the why am I doing this stuff, reframing it as urgent. Maybe it's a nice to have. So it's going in a lot of different directions here. Time boxing with a twist, so committing to non-negotiable website work and doing these before other commitments, really helpful. Solution D, though, is the one I'm thinking most about because I do have people on my team that can do this, so I am going to focus on that one. And this is the prompt that I like to use for that. Here is my rough project plan. I need to create a detailed step-by-step plan, break this down into a series of steps, and describe these steps like a movie script, including who needs to do what by what day and time. So I'm modifying this simply to say solution D seems like a great fit, and then continuing with the rest of that prompt of creating the detailed plan in a movie script format. Really cool. This has given me a bunch of scenes here where I'm the lead. I need to brainstorm the tasks. I need to have a reality check with myself, finding the freelancers and or team members who might be involved in this, and setting some deadlines and delegating. So I could go back and forth and flesh this out into a complete plan with all of the different folks from my team playing different roles with times and dates. And that would take just a few minutes. You can see just in the past, 10 minutes, this took me to go from a goal to a pretty clear project plan. And finally, getting into step 5, completing the plan and staying connected to your why. Why are you doing this? That can often inspire you to keep going, finding ways to keep yourself accountable. And that's what we're really going to use these large language models here for in a second. Developing good work habits is a big theme for Dalio as well. But this prompt, I think, is really cool, where you can say we're currently at X stage of our detailed project plan attached, and we are X number of weeks in. Please play the role of an accountability coach and assess our progress, including messaging I can give to the team to ensure that we complete this project on time and with high quality. So this not only nudges the large language model to give you a reality check of where you're at, but also helps you develop messaging that can help lead the team towards reaching that goal. Or maybe it's just you, could be messaging just to you about getting psyched up or connecting it back to the why and helping you really push through to completion. I've dropped that in. It's asked for a little bit more information about milestones and status, team dynamics, etc. And it says, once I have this information, I can help be your accountability coach, identifying bottlenecks, boosting morale, and drafting messages to the team. So how about that? And now I'd like to move from these prompts to building custom GPTs and showing you how to build assistants that can help you with all of these steps and encourage you to personalize what I'm going to show you to fit your unique scenario. That's the real beauty of AI, is personalizing it to fit you like a glove, that these are never really set in stone. They can always be a little bit better. They can always reflect your needs a little bit better. And that's what I want to show you, all that I've learned and really enjoyed learning in that area. So the basic steps here, the basic workflow is process documentation. So figuring out what process you are trying to automate, and then creating a prompt sequence from that, and then creating the custom GPT instructions from that prompt sequence. And if this sounds confusing, just stay with me. It's really not. It's something anybody can do. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. I have a whole video on creating custom GPT instructions, and I am going to link to that now. So take a look at that when you get a chance, and I'll revisit the highlights of that here shortly. But what I always struggled with was this prompt sequence. And I have recently, found a way to automatically create great prompt sequences from process documentation. Let me show you what I mean. Jumping back into the cheat sheet here, as far as defining goals with extreme clarity goes, I worked with the large language model to create this step-by-step outline of how to define goals with deep clarity. So I just started with a simple prompt, help me create a step-by-step process for getting extreme clarity on my goals. I went back and forth with it a little bit. But quickly came up with this 3-step process. Previously, I was taking this step-by-step process and manually creating prompts, but I recently found a way to automatically get the large language models to do that. And that's this prompt right here. Can you please help me create a process that will allow a user to interact with an LLM to work through the following process? And from there, I can then get a solid prompt sequence. It still takes a little editing, but from there, I can drop that into my custom GPT instructions generator. That's this guy right here. This is available to anyone, not just Patreon supporters. This is one of my only ones that I have available to folks outside of Patreon. And this has been a very, very useful custom GPT where I can just drop that prompt sequence in and it'll generate instructions for a custom GPT. Let me show you real quickly how to do this. So I'm dropping in this killer new prompt that I just went through, along with this step-by-step process that I worked with the large language model, primarily Gemini, to come up with. I'm dropping both of those here into Gemini. And this is a pretty cool first draft of a prompt sequence. I would probably edit this a little bit, especially how it begins, and just, kind of frame it in a little bit of a better way. But for the most part, we can just grab all of this as it created all these great prompts that walk us through this sequence, and take all of this and drop it into my bot instruction generator. This is available for free on the GPT store. To get to that store, all you need to do is do Explore GPTs, search for bot instruction generator, comes right up, drop in the results that we got from Gemini, and it is now creating these beautiful instructions for our custom GPT. Now, just to close the loop on exactly how you use these, you copy them, go back to Explore GPTs and Create. Make sure you're in this Configure tab, and you just paste those right into the instructions, and you name this Goal Clarification Bot, and you can upload whatever image, or you can use DALL-E to create an image. Not that important. The most important part are these instructions. Conversation starters, I often just use let's begin, or you can tell it, however you want to begin the conversation. I would take DALL-E image generation off, may probably leave web browsing on, and you're done. You can then share it with anyone with the link, publish it so that it is available to everyone, or you can share it within your group if you have a group account, or you can keep it invite only. And it's just that easy to create these really powerful custom GPTs. So a quick recap of that is just coming up with a step-by-step process. Then you take that process and say, this killer prompt, can you help me create a process that will allow a user to interact with the LLM to work through the following? And this will take that process and convert it into a prompt sequence. Then you can just copy and paste those into my custom instruction bot, just like I showed you. And then you copy and paste those instructions right into the custom GPT, and you're off to testing it and fine-tuning it and refining it. So this cheat sheet includes 5 different custom GPTs. I'm going to quickly show you a demo of all of those. It also includes all of the instructions, so you can see under the hood of what I'm doing, how my instructions turned out, and you can then begin to personalize those, copy and paste parts that are most appropriate to you, and refining them to your use cases, and then potentially reselling those or whatever you want to do with them. Let's take this goal clarification bot for a test drive. I'm just going to click Let's Begin. I'm adding, I would like to improve my Python programming skills. So I'm answering some of the questions here, giving it a little more background about why I want to learn Python and where I'm at now. And from there, it's asking us if we want to move forward with the SMART framework. I'm just saying, please proceed. And I love, not only has it given me some questions about the SMART framework, but it has also given me a goal statement that works pretty much perfectly for what I am trying to accomplish. Now it's diving into the achievability, because that's the part of the SMART framework that I always struggle with, knowing if something is achievable or not. So this is already starting to get into the planning phase, which we really don't want to do. It's hard to keep these large language models from doing that. I think we've established a very clear goal that we can copy and paste into the next GPT. The next GPT I've created here is developing a problem hunting mindset. So you can see I did the same thing. I went through an initial outline, an initial process. I turned that into a prompt sequence, and then I turned that into these custom GPT instructions. And this one starts with that goal statement statement and works through 10 steps that address potential problems. Here's this one in action. I've programmed this one to point you back to the goal clarification bot, just in case if you don't have a clear goal, but I do. This is giving me a lot of great things to think about. Is Python really the right tool for the job? Are the collabs a good tool for the job? Why are these specific AI-related APIs? This is important stuff to consider before diving in. And this bot will continue to go through guiding you through skills and knowledge assessment, suggesting ways to collect and structure meaningful feedback, identifying potential misalignments, and offer scenarios where the user has direct influence and frame actions for each. So very robust way to have a problem hunting mindset, especially if these are big goals, big, career shifts, or starting a new company, founding a new software product. This can be a really good exercise to go through. So I'm going to move on to step 3, which is probably the most important, and this is really the one that I feel like requires a custom GPT. Up until this point, you might be able to get away with just using 1 or 2 prompts to get clarity on your goal and to look at other problems, proactively that you want to solve. But getting to the root cause analysis, there are multiple steps here that I think is especially helpful to have a custom GPT. I created this the very same way, starting with a process, then going into a prompt sequence, generating instructions, and let's see how this one works. So I'm just putting in a rough problem statement here about what I'm encountering when I'm trying to learn these programming skills. And just like getting clarity on our goals, getting clarity on our problems is probably even more important. I'm just answering a few of these questions because they, there's a few in there that weren't really appropriate. So don't feel like you need to answer every single question it generates. Just make sure you keep your momentum and keep going. Awesome. Very clear problem statement now. It's asking me about the first why. Now we're going into the cause of that second why. I think we've got to some of the root causes here. It may be helpful to go through multiple root cause analysis as this custom GPT will lead you through. But now I'd like to just move on to designing the plan. This is the Custom GPT Plan Designer. And I just followed that link from the cheat sheet into the Plan Designer. It's asking me to put in my goal statement. So I'm dropping in my clear, smart goal statement and seeing how this will help me flesh out a plan. Answering just a couple quick questions here. I think it has handled this section where Ray Dalio asks you to look at your process as a machine. I think it has done a pretty good job of that. So I'm just going to say, please proceed. This next step, if you remember from our previous example, explores various different paths to achieving the goal. I think this is one of the most helpful steps. So it has really gone and thought outside of the box of different ways that I might be able to go about reaching this goal. This looks fantastic, outlining exactly what I should be looking to accomplish with every week. Now it's gone ahead and done a very detailed plan of exactly what I should be working on each day. I can continue to refine this. There are other steps in that custom GPT to refine this, or you can go through each of these phases and say, please just focus on phase 2, etc., to build out even more detail. But I think this is pretty good for now. And it really is a breakdown of that clear goal. So I'm going to grab all this and put it into the final custom GPT that ensures I get this done. This is the accountability bot, and it's asking me to put in the detailed plan. Here it is. Boom. It's just confirming that it understands the plan right, and now it's moving to a status check-in. For example's sake, I'm saying I'm 2 weeks in and I'm having trouble getting started. And it has now broken this down into ways that might motivate me to get started. But this can be helpful no matter where you're at a project. If you've hit a stumbling block and you don't know why, this accountability bot can keep you in check. It can also help you create messaging to the team if it's a group project, etc. So I hope you got something out of this video. I hope you had fun watching it. I certainly had a lot of fun making it. I definitely have been using these custom GPTs. I may not be using all of them straight through. I may just be using the problem identification or the root cause analysis or the planning. So consider using it for that. And let me know where you got stuck. Let me know if there's anything here that I can help you with. I think one of the things that I'm talking about with a lot of my coaching clients is how granular. At what point is it better to just have one prompt? At what point is it better to have a custom GPT? At what point do you maybe need multiple custom GPTs to solve a problem? And I think folks are a lot of very different. Their workflows are different. So that's one problem I could use your help on, is any frameworks you might have for understanding how granular you need to be with these systems. So drop that into the comments. Otherwise, please feel free to subscribe. I'm going to do a whole nother video all on that custom GPT process that I went through a little bit here about how to automatically create your prompt sequences. I'm really excited to do that. So subscribe if you're interested in that. Otherwise, give me a like and check out the Patreon options. I've been having a lot of fun coaching folks in a group format or a one-on-one format. And of course, there are now dozens and dozens of cheat sheets in there, each one with dozens and dozens of prompts and custom GPTs. There are now well over 70 cheat sheets. Each one has, some of them have up to 100 prompts in there. So a lot of tools depending on what you're looking to learn in there. That's all immediately accessible by joining the Patreon. But overall, just thanks for watching. I appreciate you giving me some of your time here, and I'll see you on the next video.
Make your dreams come true.